we're looking at recruiting a new generation into our workforce. And it's not always about how much money are they going to make, but how are we going to accommodate their lifestyle too. And that's some of the balance we have that, at least I see when I'm talking to new generation. They're like, well, do I have to work every Saturday? Well, how many bell to bells do I have to work? Right? What are the benefits that come with it? Because there are people, don't get me wrong, there are hustlers out there, and the younger generation, they want to make as much as they can. However, there are people who want to work to live, not live to work.
Welcome back, everyone, to episode number 17. Who would have thought we made it? But we did, not quite to 20, of the Wheelhouse. And this is actually going to be an incredibly fun episode. And everyone's got podcasts, but really nobody's got it like the Wheelhouse does. Guaranteed. So joining us today, we've got Mr. Paul Daly, the CEO of ASOTU, and then joined next to him, or just diagonally from him, depending on if you're watching the podcast, Matthew Haiken, president and dealer principal at Prestige Collection. You may know him from the Car Guy Dealership podcast also. Colby Joyner, VP of Marketing and Strategy at the Cavender Auto Group, and Ashley Cavazos, Marketing Director at the DeMontrond Auto Group. And I'm getting better at saying all of that. So that's good. Yeah, that's a macaroni in my hat. But all right, as always, we're just going to go ahead and say that obviously we welcome everybody to the Wheelhouse, and the opinions that are spoken about here and the views are represented solely by the speakers themselves and not by their affiliates, their companies that they may represent or may employ them. All right, we're going to go around the horn. Each panelist gets 30 seconds. I want to know, so far this year, is it shaping up to what you thought it would be? Or are there any surprises? Is there anything not shaping up the way you thought it would be? Right. And Colby, is welcome to you. We'll let you open up here, and 30 seconds on the clock for you.
Thank you. Honestly, it's not shaping up any different than any other year. I mean, you're starting off, January's typically kind of down from December. Luckily on our side, we had, opportunities that matched what we had in December. So overall, we're looking forward to the spring. We have a lot of plans. And luckily, over the last year, we've been putting a lot of initiatives together, and they're all coming to fruition.
You're on pace?
So right now, I think
you're on pace. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No surprises there. All right, Matthew, 30 seconds on the clock. Tell me about your work.
Yeah. January and February totally suck. And it hurts so bad because I think the last 2 years we kind of avoided it, but it's back to normal in February. And of course, we don't forget what happened in the past. And it's hard. It's hard for everyone. And, President's Day weekend usually kicks off the spring selling season. We had a great weekend. But yeah, we're ready to move forward. Pretty tough.
Just get me through this month, basically.
Please.
All right. Ashley, how's it looking in your world with 30 seconds on the clock for you?
Yeah, I'm excited with where we're headed. I mean, as kind of what we've said, January, you always expect some kind of hangover from December, but opportunity-wise, the shoppers are out there, and that has me really pumped up because the trends that I had been tracking over the last 6 months, we had seen a pretty substantial decline, and we're up. We're looking, especially for February, we're trending. If I had 31 days in February, I would have more shoppers than I did in January. And that's really exciting to see for the market.
Remind everyone who's listening, just what part of the country are you located in?
I am in Houston.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Daly?
So I see the dealer sentiment trickling into the industry partner side for sure. Probably a little faster than I expected because usually there's a little bit of a delay lag, but I see on the industry partner side, because I'm on it, that people are looking for much more efficient use of their development dollars and their sales and marketing dollars. They want to get wheels to the ground quickly and don't want to burn time with dealers who don't have time for them.
No, that makes sense. That's actually good to hear too. I mean, all right. We're going to dive right into some of our topics. All pretty much are centered around a similar topic, and they're all going to lead us to the place that we want to be at, so that we always want to give you something that's at least actionable and something that's sticky that'll last with you after you listen to the podcast that you can use at your store. So the first thing up, Big Six public auto retailers, you're hearing a lot about how much they've increased revenue, but really when they've also dropped in gross profit. So first thing is, personally me, I don't understand why Wall Street loves an increase in revenue when it's not related to an increase in gross profit. And as we've said before, as a used car manager or a general manager, I've never been able to be in a meeting and be like, but my revenue is up when my gross profit is down 30%. That right would indicate that you're selling, true story, but you're discounting quite a bit. So is this an indication? Is this a continuing indication of lower demand? Is this people giving in to sort of the circumstances that are around them in the ghost of affordability? Is that something that you guys are seeing in your stores? Even when you say you're up, are you up in just units? Are you moving them via discounting? And are you seeing discounts going across the board in your lineup? So let's kind of tackle that. And Ashley, since you just heard from you that you guys are up and in a major metro market, why don't you tell us about what you see there?
Yeah, I mean, it is an interesting time. So our shoppers are up. I think we're also, and we've been talking about it, it's almost like a broken record where we keep saying like we need to get back to the basics of selling cars, but we do, right? So although my traffic is up, I am in a competitive market. I have, a ton, I've got all the Publix are in my backyard. You've got prices, interest rates that you're competing against. It's a very interesting time. I'm glad to see that the shoppers are out there. But to your point, what are we having to sacrifice to sell those units? I'm great to see the inventories coming in, but it's a very different time for us. And I think about when we had the pandemic, right? We were like out of toilet paper for how long? Everybody was going to buy toilet paper because we were like supply and demand. And now the cars are out there, and we're almost in a similar situation where customers aren't running to buy that car right away. They're kind of taking their time. They're also looking at experience. There's a number of factors that they're putting into that.
Are you discounting pretty much across the model line? Are there a few cars that don't discount still, or is it pretty much?
There's still a few cars, but we have to be competitive with this market. We are in the fourth largest metro in the United States, so we've got a lot of things happening that we have to consider. And you're in the oil and gas industry on top of that, so when you're looking to sell EVs, it's an interesting conversation.
And isn't it interesting that this report comes out about the Publix? And you said you have Publix in your backyard. Maybe your experience is different, but in my experience, isn't it always the Publix that are going to the mats first in their discounts? Aren't they always the ones that are discounting first?
100%. And it's something I'm not used to because we didn't have the Publix in Minneapolis. So for the past 10 years, I've been studying a very different market, being in the Midwest. And now I'm like, okay, let's see what's going on here. Who do I have to go up against?
Right. Okay. Who else?
So like on our side, yes, we understand that gross profit is going to erode a little bit. There's going to be lower, gross on a per vehicle basis. What we're doing on our side, and we knew this going into this year as the way that the latter half of last year worked, is that Rocket Money app, like where you can go there and it analyzes everything that you're spending and it says, oh, by the way, you're spending twice on Netflix. Like that's what we're looking at from our deals. We're looking at every expense, not to lower or to, try to be, for lack of better words, dumb about it and just like eliminate expenses. But like, hey, where are we spending money that's dumb? Or where did we, when everything was good, just start saying, hey, cool, like add that and add that and add this. So we're being a lot more granular when it comes to what is attached to every deal so that we can maximize the use of that money on a per vehicle basis. Knowing that we're not going to make as much per, we have to just kind of clean it up a little bit. And that's what we're doing right now. So we knew that was coming in. And so we've been kind of very detailed going through all of our expenses.
VP at marketing and the strategy for marketing to show an increased discount across the model lines. And you guys represent a lot of brands. Is that part of the strategy?
Yeah, it's not. So we discount across all brands. I think the only one that we really don't discount much is if any, is the higher end of the Land Rovers. And then the upper echelon of the Cadillacs, like the Black Wings or Escalade Vs, those kind of things. But we also don't have any addendums. We don't have any required add-ons. There's none of that. It's sticker or less, right? But we've also been kind of discounting and doing that all of last year. So it's nothing new for us from a discount standpoint. We're not having to increase discounts or, drop lower. It's the value prop is like, hey, the price you see is what you pay. This is what it is. And it's just trying to make that experience
Matt,
good.
Want to make sure you get a chance here.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Listen, inventory is back to pre-pandemic levels. And now we have interest rates for our floor plan that are basically, if you're selling luxury cars, they're like mortgage payments. We sell $100,000 cars. I mean, most people's first homes, we're, you know, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. Like, we're paying a mortgage payment on these cars every single month. They have to go away. We have to move them no matter what it takes. So we've got a gun to our head, and, you know, it's back to 2019, but the rates are through the roof, and it's affecting the business. And, you know, we're passing along in the most affordable payments possible. The manufacturers also, they've raised prices so much on all these cars, and as dealers, you know, we take the brunt of it, and they're always blaming us. But the MSRP to MSRP from 2019 to now is like through the roof. So something's going to have to happen, and it might not be in the form of traditional, you know, rebates and incentives that'll kill residuals, but something's going to have to change. And right now we're at a boiling point.
Paul, I didn't get to you, but I mean, is there anything else for you to? You want to throw in there? And Matt was so calm on that one too. I know it took us all by surprise.
Thank you. I'm trying to be calm.
Yell at me, Matt. So
that takes so much energy from me.
You got it for days. I don't know. I think the only time, you know, to your marketing question, Colby, that like lower profit for higher revenue might be justified is if there's another strategic element to it. For instance, if you're trying to grow market share and you can show that you've gained market share, and maybe you've been investing money, you know, either on the hood or in the back end efforts to make that happen. But aside from anything very strategic like that, I don't.
That was always the catchphrase. It was like, this is a market share deal. Don't look at it.
It's a market share deal. Right.
Again, like, as car dealers, we live in the real world. We deal with real people, and the manufacturers that are publicly traded, they live and die by Wall Street, and Wall Street loves this fantasy.
Well, the revenue on Wall Street too is like, oh, is this an indicator of, you know, growing demand for the product, right? And like, no.
Right. And if you recall, like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, we were often having discussions about what inflated demand is or artificial demand is. Right. And so for anyone who didn't get to see the precedings for how you get to, you know, we're in the epilogue right now, but we're also getting into the prologue of how you get back into an artificial market. And this is exactly how you get into an artificial market. Going along those same lines, Wall Street Journal, again, pointing out vehicle affordability concerns are making headlines every day. We've got gas prices somewhat in check. We know from The Economist, the Saudis typically don't like it going up much more, over 80 cents a barrel. But generally speaking, that's going to be kind of a known cost, but everything else is higher, and specifically pointing to insurance premiums that are across the board 20% higher than they were last January. So 1 year ago, 20% year over year increase. And that's especially unusual because we've just absolutely stated you're not seeing a 20% year over year increase in your gross, but neither are our customers in necessarily in their paychecks for the most part. So the article literally says, other than gas, everything about your car is getting more expensive. Agree, disagree, showing something different? How are you battling that?
I mean, I would have to say I totally agree. We even look at what the average monthly payment is for a car. Right now, for a new car, the average monthly payment, and I think it just came out maybe a few weeks ago, but I saw it was like $720 or $700. I think I wrote it down. $726 is the average monthly car payment. And we look back on, you know, a few years ago, we're looking at $499, $599. What percentage of customers are over?
I'm curious how much of that payment is the upside down that they brought over on
the upside down, the interest rate on top of it, right? The average interest rate is like 7%. So it's crazy to look at the ownership. And we were talking about it in this previous discussion, but we talked about what are we marking our cars at, but also what are we doing on the back end for finance, and what are you doing to help with ownership? So I think about, you know, what is your dealership doing to help with the service part of maintaining your vehicle? We see a lot of service plans out there to help make sure that you're getting your maintenance covered, but that's also raising your payment as well.
It's interesting. If you do the exercise, or maybe you do this and ask your salespeople, like, what you think the average payment in your dealership is. And it's always either way higher or way lower, right? And the other interesting thing too, and I used to do this, when people would come to us from other brands to interview, is ask them like what their average payment is at their store. And I would, you know, check it and then ask them if it's hard for them to, you know, if the average payment in my store is $980, let's just say, and it's a struggle for you to get to $700, then when you come to my store, like, I need you to know that upfront, right? If that's something that you think about, if that's in your mindset, if you think money controls something, then you should know that. But Matt, you're give me something. You're looking at me. I can't know what I did.
Yeah, No. We're in tri-state. We're right outside of New York City. We're a major lease market. We're luxury, so 80 to 90% lease pen. Obviously, lease payments have gone up. All you have to do is look at interest rates where they were 3 years ago to where they are now. A lot of customers are trying to buy out their leases at the end and not release, and they think that's the most affordable thing to do, and it could be for some people. But again, you know, when you've got all these new cars on the lot, you got to move them somehow, and putting them into a maturing lease is the only tool we have. So again, affordability is always top of mind, but for us, it's all about that lease payment. On another note, like, and I've said this in the past, I really think these manufacturers have to get to work on their CPO programs. I think we have to go back in time. I mean, the quality of cars in the last 5 years are better than they've ever been. So the fact that we're only certifying like 21 to 22s now is crazy. Like, let's come up with a certified program that goes back to 18.
Yeah.
And that would help all of us with affordability and getting more people into
If you're experiencing good quality in your brands, that's amazing, because that's not across the board. But
listen, in the last 24 months, quality's never been worse, but that's not the car. That's software. That's chips. I'm saying as a whole, you take out the computer system and teaching people how to use the car.
Where are these dings coming from? I feel like they're angels getting their wings.
I'm on do not disturb, and my
it must.
Yeah.
So here's the situation where Mr. Govaer has now dropped out of the podcast, maybe in shame.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Now Matt, I think you're in charge of the show.
I was actually going to ask, though, real quick, what about a loyalty program? Has anybody put a loyalty program in place to help give additional value, help earn value inside the dealership? Does anyone have something
We're in
like
the
that
middle of
already?
We're in the middle of building that right now, and we're building it through an app. So within the app, there's going to have all the loyalty points and everything within there. So I'm excited to finally get that launched. That'll be probably mid-March.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everyone's going to have an app at some point to track it, right? But yeah, I mean, you just want the company that'll make it customizable for you. But yeah, I mean, I think that's one way of showing additional value in the dealership. But anyway, anybody else? Matt, did I cut you off mid-thought? Was there something?
No.
Okay.
No. I'm looking for, I want a bananas referral program that's done easily through an app, through a click of one button, where, we can take care of referrals, touch a button, send something to them or their house, send it to accounting, get it tracked. If anyone has an idea or knows anyone, send it my way. I would love to learn a new system for that.
I can get you as far as pressing a button and getting a banana, but other than that, I'm out.
Interesting.
Paul, what'd we miss?
I am a monkey, so.
Oh, I don't think we missed anything.
Okay.
I mean, yeah,
No.
we were talking about insurance a little bit.
I mean, is that, no,
it's just, you just seem like there's nothing. It just feels like insurance always feels like like you're in a helpless state. I would say that some buyers might not understand that insurance has increased so much. And when they get into a new vehicle, they might be very surprised that not only is it more expensive because they bought a new car, but it's that additional 20% premium higher. And that could make a meaningful difference to their monthly payment. So, I think that a dealer could serve consumers well, especially if they're very budget minded. Like, you don't want to put them in a position where when they get the insurance bill, they're like, now I really can't afford this car.
Well, so isn't that a fair question, though? If are your salespeople encountering that as an objection? I was going to look at this car, but I can't because
the insurance, does that come up?
Because insurance is more, because parking is more, because my taxes are more, because, right? I mean, doesn't it, I'm saying it all adds up. And to say that it's just about insurance, it's not just about insurance, but I mean, that does become a viable objection. And at the end of the day, we don't get paid till we sell a car. So that's, that's one of the things I want to bring it up. But if you're listening to this and you've got ideas on how to do that, like, we're here to listen. I mean, that's the ideas that we all get better, together.
Well, and then also, I think if you have a lot, like we have Allstate located in our offices at our dealerships, right? So that kind of helps you start that conversation, like, because you do have some of those questions that come up, like, what is my insurance going to look like with this car? It's more payment. What does that do for my insurance? But if you can have your agency that's on site kind of help with that or get that conversation started, then you're starting, to Paul's point, you're starting to build that education piece for them.
Yeah, we have our own Cavender insurance, like our own insurance agency in house, and it's all involved with every deal that's going out there, so they can get and understand a quote and what it may be based off of the new car and new payment and how that's going to get structured and how is that different than what they're currently in. And we may not be the best rate on it, right? There could be somebody else, but at least it gives them an idea of, hey, moving into this, at least there's the biggest thing about it all is it's clarity or transparency. It's like, hey, affordability, you can't make affordability better, right? It's all about just that these are the prices. Either you're going to lose your butt on the car deal to try to get a customer, which in the end, most of those customers are not coming back to you because they're just trying to get the best deal. So it's all about, hey, do they trust us? And as long as we're upfront and transparent and clear and say, this is what it is, we can't really change this, then that's where more often than not, the customer is going to say, okay, that makes sense. I can't take this Denali trim. I'm going to go to, an SLT, right? Because it does everything I need. It's going to fit in my payment. And when I can afford the Denali, I'm going to come back to you because you were clear with us the whole time.
Oh, that's actually a good segue. So hang on to that, Biscuit, as we lead into the next one here for just hot off the Market Watch presses, talking about how we're sweetening the deals, that Americans have bought a record number of luxury cars in the recent months, and EV prices have tumbled almost 11% compared to a year ago. You read the article, you'll see average new cars sold for $47,401 in January. That's already an almost 3% drop from December, but they're down almost 3.5% since last January. So besides all those percentages, a year ago, America's car dealers had 750,000 fewer cars in stock than they do today. And incentives made up about 2.8% of the average new car sale. And in January, just as of January, inventory approaching pre-pandemic norms, discounts were 5.7% of the average purchase price. And it's not the same across the board. And the reason I was saying that was going to be a good segue, according to the article, luxury vehicles and full-size pickup trucks had some of the highest discounts in January. Conversely, incentives for small pickups, full-size SUVs, and minivans were well below the industry average in January, averaging less than 3%. So if you can kind of keep that in mind, that the industry average discount is 3%, however you use that as a negotiating tool on whichever side of the desk, whether you're above or below 3% and why. And they said a handful of brands, including Toyota and Kia, still have historically low inventory numbers, but most of those are now at or above the supply of new cars they tried to keep pre-pandemic. And luxury prices, again, leading that market lower.
All right. Did these authors like asterisk and take EVs out of it? Because like the average EV discount is probably like 20 to 30%.
Right.
And then the average used
the article headline has EVs are discounts are almost 11% compared to what they were a year ago. So just hadn't gotten to that EV part yet. But yes, Cox Automotive and Kelley Blue Book revised their EV transaction prices and data to more accurately reflect the growth in the electric market. Price paid for an electric last month was $55,353, and EV prices have fallen almost 11% compared to a year ago numbers. January EV prices were higher month over month by a little, but in December, you're talking about an average sale price of $53,611, the lowest point in the last 12 months. So yes, the lowest point for EVs in the last 12 months and massive discounts across the board and that's kind of your point too, Matt, right?
Yeah. Huge. And I don't know how Lisa makes those numbers, but this all makes sense.
Is 3%, are you 3% off of gross for everybody? Does that make sense?
Wish I was 3% off of gross. I'm sure 3% is a good average, but we are well more than 3%.
You're more in the 11 to 12%?
I would say so.
Do you feel that's indicative of just the luxury market?
I mean, I think every market's different, but where we are, we're right outside New York City. There's so many dealers, there's so many brokers, there's so much going on, there's so much inventory. It's January, it's February, and we're paying huge floor plan bills. So the cars have to go. Because we know when spring selling season comes, there's going to be even more inventory. So yeah, it's not, this is the norm. This is the norm, and we've got to adjust our playbook to selling cars this way. And we have for a very long time.
What part of this makes sense? Automakers don't want to be making all of these EVs as much as they're making them. Consumers don't want to be buying as many EVs as we have to sell. Like, why are we?
Yes and yes.
I mean, why are we in this circle of just?
I bet if you blindfolded everybody and put them in a room, and dealers and consumers, and you said to them, who wants more EVs in your life? I don't think there would really be any hands up. I mean, and it's obvious by the numbers. It's obvious, I think OEMs have been put in this position through government incentives that this is the future. You have to do this or else, right? We saw today that the Biden administration start to back off their 2030 regulations of emissions and what percentage of cars had to be EVs, went from 67% down to 60%. It's probably going to keep going
Because
south.
you're telling them like, we'll take the fines, like cheaper for us to take the fines and to build these.
Absolutely.
But what we're doing is we're turning the Titanic. Like, we can't shut it off on a dime. Like, we've made these plans years and years previously. We've made, previous commitments to suppliers, to government agencies. So this is like turning the Titanic. And plus, if you're a publicly traded company and you've made promises to these investors that X is going to be EV, certain X is going to be this, they've got to go back and write a new screenplay of what they tell their stakeholders on why they're adjusting their plans, and that affects
it does. I mean, if you think of it that way, though, like the investors who were excited about that was when there was a very clear popular opinion demand that we want EVs, right? And that has obviously shifted.
They didn't want EVs; they wanted Tesla valuation.
Yes.
You wanted valuation
Yes.
based on Tesla. Wah. Why are they valued like tech? Why are we valued like a legacy?
CEO of Mazda said it the best way. He said, you guys in the United States look at it as if there's an EV market. We look at it as if there's a Tesla market, and then there's everyone else trying to build electrics. And we can't be in the Tesla market because we're not Teslas. And I think that's one of the smartest things that I've heard. But like right now, let me just ask this very blanket general question, right? Is there an EV, a way to sell an EV right now that you have available? Is there a way to sell an EV without discounting it at all? If I had
absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
No, absolutely.
The Hummer that we have, the Hummers that we get, we don't have to, but the supply of those are so small.
Yeah. And what's the MSRP on that?
It's one something.
Yeah. They're not 100 over now either, though.
Well, no, we're not asking for over.
Yeah, no, I mean,
but we're also not having a discount, which is a plus. But
I mean, that's
the only one.
I mean,
the supply is very minimal to what you have available, and
I mean, that car is like bragging rights only, right?
Okay, so I imagine when the electric G-Wagon comes out, it would be the same way. But I'm just saying what we have. Okay, so Hummers, you don't that's fair. You don't have to discount those. Other than that, is there an EV that you don't have to discount to sell?
No, not at all.
No. I mean,
I was talking to a dealer at NADA. Said I have 20 Ford Mustang Mach-E's. I'm putting 5,000 on the hood because I need to get rid of them. And even after that, he could only sell 3.
Like at our Cadillac store, we have the Lyrics, right? I swear those things are like rabbits. They're making babies.
There's more than yesterday.
Yeah. And it's, I think one of the biggest things, and so surprisingly, I'm actually going to buy an EV for the experience of having an EV, so that I can understand how to market an EV and understand the struggles and difficulties of that. So I'm trading in my beloved Bronco, which I freaking love, but I'm going to get an EV because I need to be able to experience it.
Taking this thing that I love and I'm getting an EV and I'm doing it for you people.
All of you people.
So again,
but that's the thing is like, we have tried every strategy to market these cars, and it's very difficult to get that, just to get one, like your cost per lead and your cost per sold on an EV is way above the averages that we should be hitting. And it's like, why? So at the root of it, like, why are we having that problem? I think a lot of it is education on the customer, right? Even when they're like, where do I charge my car? I live in an apartment. You see the videos in California of people lined up down the line of the parking lot. Why would I want an EV if I'm going to have to wait an hour just to get in line to park my car to charge it? Not even to charge it. I have to do that.
EVs, based on the tax laws and how everything's set up, they are built to lease them. If you're going to get a new EV, you lease it. If you're going to buy an EV, you buy a pre-owned EV. Last week, I heard like the godfather of the used car business. He was chatting. I don't know if I'm supposed to drop names. And, he wanted to spend some.
It's no one.
Yeah. Bob Hollinshead was chatting. And he's like, listen, I was going to get, he always drives a Rolls, calls him a roller. I love that statement. I've never heard a Rolls called a roller. I think that's just gangster. So he's like, it's the end of the year.
Totally.
And I saw the new EV rolls, and I was like, I was gonna get it. I was gonna get it. But then I thought to myself, why would I get that? I'm gonna watch it go through the block, and I'm gonna get it for 50% off sticker because that's what EVs do at the block. So he bought a new Colby, and he didn't buy the new EV rolls. And the new EV rolls is beautiful, but EVs are built to lease, and if you're gonna buy
Right, which still points to the winning formula where the government has to also threaten to fine the automakers and incentivize consumers heavily to buy it new, also incentivize consumers to buy it pre-owned. I mean, it's like, it's always it's whenever the government has to give money out in order for people to buy stuff and also threaten to fine people for not making it, like that always makes sense. But moving on. We've all agreed that these transaction prices are changing. They have changed. They have been changed. They are done changed. It just happened. We are in this new world. Has anyone changed their pay plans to affect that, to respond to that? Who's got, or should we change pay plans? Or was your pay plan just miraculous and didn't need to be changed in the first place?
Listen, pay plans always need to be adjusted based on the changing marketplace and the goals of the store. I'm a dealer, though. Whether I give someone a raise or we have to make an adjustment, this is never a good conversation. You know, even if you're handing people free money, it's a change and people have their radar up. So I need your advice. How do you even implement this? What do I do first? Because we need changes all over the place. And now's the time when you usually do it. You don't do it in December for the holiday time. You make it through January. People start looking for new jobs mid-January, early February. And we need to make a lot of adjustments.
Well, Matt, and I'm sure you're seeing and hearing it too, but we were getting all of these high gross, grosses coming in. And so our managers or our teams are used to making a certain paycheck if they're paid on gross and they're not there. And they're like, well, how do I afford, this RV that I bought when times were really good and the boat that I bought? And now we're in this place where, like, how do you balance that? Because we're back to where we're getting back to, if we're not already where we were 3 years ago. And it is a tough conversation to have on where do I put my pay plan and how do I continue paying them what they've been used to making when we're still trying to get to your point, we're having to discount cars and we have more inventory on the ground.
Paul, Colby, anything you guys have seen?
We changed our pay plans and adjusted ours to be more volume based than it was gross based. Mm-hmm. I mean, just knowing that the shift is going to be happening, knowing that that's the direction that we're going to be going as a group is, we made the proper adjustments on that to make sure that our staff and our employees understand what the goal mm-hmm. is for us and what mm-hmm. our journey is going to be, and that they're happy and they understand that they're going to be supported in that volume-based goal.
I've been seeing a lot of that amongst the dealers I interact with and work for. A lot of volume-based shifting going on, like through and through. And I think that's just indicative of the fact that like dealers they understand this is how it's going to stay. And also I think taking the opportunity to shift the mentality of the store. Like I see a lot of people moving toward one price, negotiation free, single point of contact, even in some cases. And this is kind of like, while everything's like shaking up, it's a great thing to put a few stakes in the ground, right? When people aren't, as sensitive to every little thing because they're worried about the big thing. And so the volume-based pay plans do seem like a strategic move on a lot of dealers' radar to like move people toward this mentality.
Right. I mean,
F&I is what?
F&I hasn't so much been impacted. I mean, we can still, so I mean, if we're not paying salespeople in some way off of F&I, that's something we could consider, right?
I've actually seen a lot of F&I transition or the groundwork being laid to minimize the role of the F&I department or, expensive F&I managers in stores as a result. Like I see these two things kind of moving forward at the same time.
That's another discussion. I just think, for salespeople, there's a 1% pay plan that I've seen in luxury stores that I like a lot. It's 1% of the selling price. And then there's kickers based off, obviously, it enhances based on volume and you can participate in back end and things like that. But that's because it goes off transaction price and it's transparent. Right. And I think that's one of the things, a couple of things to remember. First of all, people look for jobs every day. I think there's, and I'm not saying you're wrong, Matt. I do, obviously around a natural transition period in a year, I'm sure that causes people to look at things, but salespeople aren't cicadas. Like, they don't have a specific time of year they have to come out and look for a job. But it's going to be all the time. Why? Because I can see on social media where my friends are, having a great time at a dealership and where their paychecks are still doing all right. And I can see on, from my connection to people, I have a much broader, we all have people that we would consider like somewhat friends that we've never met, but we communicate with frequently online, and that we see them on social media, and we can see, they'll show us what they're making, or we can see how they're doing things at their dealership. People aren't waiting for a specific time to emerge from their dealership out into the open streets and be like, what dealership will have me now? But I think it's every day that it makes sense if you're not adapt, plus how much time do they need to give you as a dealer to adapt? Right? Because go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but also we're looking at recruiting a new generation into our workforce. And it's not always about how much money are they going to make, but how are we going to accommodate their lifestyle too? And that's some of the balance we have that, at least I see when I'm talking to new generation. They're like, well, do I have to work every Saturday? Well, how many bell to bells do I have to work? Right? What are the benefits that come with it? Because there are people, don't get me wrong, there are hustlers out there, and the younger generation, they want to make as much as they can. However, there are people who want to work to live, not live to work.
Absolutely. And you don't have to have the same pay plan for every single person on the sales floor. It has to be available to everybody. They can choose. You can have two pay plans, 3 pay plans. You can, as long as you can compute it and it's easy for the office to understand, your salespeople can have a choice of pay plans. You don't have to force everyone into the same pay plan. But I think what Ashley's saying is 110% valuable, and we've said it now on 2 Wheelhouse. People look for more than just what's on the paycheck. They look for, you want to see transparency in my pay. I want it to be easy to calculate, and I want to have the flexibility to live my life and have my work be a part of it, not all of it. But moving into that, I think we
can do a full discussion on pay like this, and I think it'd be super valuable.
Okay. Then that's coming up next time on the Wheelhouse, discussion on pay plans and cost cutting measures also. But in the meantime, we're going to segue on into a brand new segment that we have here on the Wheelhouse. Is we also pay attention to trends out there on social media, and we understand that relationships are important. There it is. There's my dating game there. So we're looking at what are some workplace red flags where you might be in a toxic relationship at your dealership right? And I did a sort of an informal poll on my Instagram, and we'll probably move this over to LinkedIn to get some wider responses. I'll go ahead and kick it off. Here's a few of what I got. If HR is really only involved in gossip, that's a red flag. If your dealership has recently cut off or canceled your forms of training, that could be a red flag, right? Let me open it up to the floor here. What else would you guys consider to be a red flag at a dealership?
See, for me, and I'm a woman, a red flag to me is I see no female representation on my showroom or my sales desk.
Right?
Like, that's a red flag.
That's 100%. Okay. And also if they've been recycling managers, that was another one I got. We fired this guy like a year ago. We just hired this guy back.
I think when there's a rock star salesperson that does whatever they want.
Yes.
Well, because I support Jordan rules. The problem is that not everyone's Jordan.
Actually, I saw or Simon Sinek, there was a post about it, but it was having to send CYA emails to make sure that your job is validated.
Yeah.
That's a big one. If you're going and you're going to go work at a place, and the requirement is at the end of every day, you got to send an email to say what you did every day to upper management or somebody else and say, hey, these are the tasks and duties that I did. And there's a significant lack of trust in your ability. Therefore, what are you doing? The whole time you're just trying to beg to maintain the job. I'm not saying that you shouldn't send reporting emails or things to, show what happened, but if it has to be detailed, like I had a call at this time and then I spoke to this person and then we organized this and we did this, and that's can be very micromanaging and not allow somebody to want to stay. They're going to want to have a little bit of that autonomy and freedom.
If I have to spend more time explaining what I did with my day than actually doing what I need to do in my day, then yeah.
Right.
I am by no means perfect, but if you are in any of these relationships, reach out to me. I got a lot of opportunity. A lot of opportunities.
Smart guy over there recruiting. Also,
Yeah,
the
please
use of the
call
word
me.
family. If you're using the word family at work, plenty of great sources on why that you're actually putting toxic pressure on people by telling them like, but we're family. Because you're also not. And you're also, the relationship that I have with you is not that of family, right? And my family can't cause me to lose generally speaking, isn't going to cause me to lose all of my income or allow me to make more income. Or also my family isn't going to sit there and I can't be told by someone who's never had an issue making their mortgage payment, tell me, but we're family at a time when I'm struggling to make that payment.
Good point.
So think about that. Coming up in another 2 weeks, we're gonna have some great episodes of the Wheelhouse, and if you want to be on it, just let us know. We're gonna be covering things like pay plans. We're gonna be covering things like, is there actual HR in the dealership world, and we're gonna be covering more things about red flags in dealership, and if it's time for you to start talking to a recruiter or looking around, what are the things you should be asking those dealerships? All that and more coming up on future episodes of the Wheelhouse. Thank you to our panelists for joining us. Thank you so much to JC and Nathan for putting this show together. Couldn't do it without you guys. And we will see everybody here on the Wheelhouse in another 2 weeks. Thanks.